that next step once they leave high school. They've been in school for so long, maybe they don't even know what work is like. So as someone mentioned, you have these really cool office spaces that they'll get to see on the field trips, and they get to meet some really dynamic and incredible data scientists that they make a real impression on our students. They really enjoy that. In terms of the competition itself, what we've found, at least speaking for me, is just as we're a pretty diverse group of faculty that got involved in the competition with science, with marketing, with math, we thought it was really important to form the teams that way. And we let the students kind of choose who they would like to work with and what project they'd like to be on. But for the 5 to 7 kids on your team, make them, in my opinion, as diverse as possible. Not every kid needs to be the computer science major. It's not necessarily great to have 6 programmers on your class. It's great if that happens, but we had kids that were really interested in sports, really interested in art. So the kids that maybe they didn't know so much about computer science and Java made this awesome data visualization in Tableau because they were just have that artistic bent. So the diversity of the teams was, I think, a key point for us. And that really, I think the kids really enjoyed working together in that kind of dynamic. Our kids spend a lot of time on it too.
Yeah, they spend a lot. I mean, that's what I think the biggest thing we've run into both years. We spend so much time trying to collect all the data, and if I feel like we spend a smaller portion than we should be actually analyzing it and spending the time with the visualization. So that would be my one piece of advice, to try to get your data as quickly as possible so that you do allow yourself enough time to look through it and really find the connections.
Can you share some of your collection process issues since you spent so much time on it, just so that we get a heads up?
Yeah, just finding sources. And one thing that did work last year, our school, the kids they're all into Google Drive now, so they have Chromebooks. So one thing that did work last year was just starting a spreadsheet that they could share with everybody in their group, a Google Sheet. And then they could all be looking, there could be 6, 7 people looking for data in different sources, and then all putting it together on that one spreadsheet. So that did work a little bit better last year too. But finding it, well, the one school was this one looking for the different clubs and everything from different schools. They found some websites had everything listed and they could just plug it in, which I think with this one, that was a lot of it doing. They had to set up the spreadsheet, find the data, and plug it in. With another group I work with, they were able to just find columns they could copy and paste in. But yeah, that always seems like the lengthiest thing for us, is finding the data.
Correct. Yeah, getting the data in a form that the kids can use, whether that's going to be Excel or whatever. Finding that data is one issue. Getting it into their own usable form that they're going to use for their very own project that's a whole other matter.
And that's actually, and that's real world too, so even in professional.
And having to collaborate and decide who's going to do what, making sure that somebody's supposed to find what they're supposed to find to keep everything going.
And the definitions are consistent across the groups and across teams. That's the real world challenge, and that's the whole idea that we make them go through this exercise, is to understand this is a very important piece of making, becoming data driven. Just having clean data, and it doesn't come like that. You have to really
look at it. And getting to the Tableau part too, it was really easy to use last year, and the kids were, I even used it in one of my classes too, and they were just amazed, just being able to drag and drop and the cool things that they could create.
Once you have your data, then it's really, that Tableau works really easily for that.
And as a science teacher, it's really nice because, at least for me, the traditional perhaps science lab report with the boring graphs and so on. Tableau gives you some really interesting options for new visualizations and so forth. And that's got to extend to math classes and history and English as well. So it's been a really nice experience with big data, just actually learning some of the tools and the techniques that we do. And now as faculty, we can share those kind of new ideas of what to do with our colleagues as well. So it's been pretty successful.
In retrospect, I think we spent too many sessions talking about deadlines as opposed to getting them seeing what an Excel spreadsheet looks like and going out and getting the data sets. Because I think when you have a meeting of let's try to find 2 variables to correlate, we're going to prove that A causes B, and then they're going to go out there and not find the data to support it, but rather try have the data lead to what the A and B are, and then it eases the project a lot more. And the quicker you part goes, because at the end, our groups were struggling to make the posters, and it was just cluttered. You know, I feel if you have a cleaner conclusion, you can have a better poster.
The evaluations from the kids at the end of the experience are what brought me back this year. The kids really learned a lot about data and working with it and deadlines. And I would just be echoing a lot of what other people said if I went on much longer, so I don't need to do that. But I will say it was really worth our while, and I thank you very much for the opportunity. Any problem you ran into, I probably ran into twice, simply by being a little inept about the software and the numbers myself. But really worthwhile, and I hope that we can streamline some of that stuff this year. Oh, and thank you very much for putting it before spring break, because I had all seniors, and after spring break, they were essentially gone. It was not working.
Getting data, I had one group pull data off a website and like make a physical Excel spreadsheet, spent a lot of time doing this, and then realized there was no conclusion to be made. And they said, well, our presentation is going to be that there's no conclusion because there's no way we can do that process all over again in a timely fashion. So to get them to be really looking out for websites that give them spreadsheets and learning how to manipulate them fast so that way they can quickly change those are my three biggest takeaways from the competition. I have retention's high, the kids love doing it. It's something that it's going to be an easy sell this year, but just getting them quickly looking at data within the second meeting is my goal.
So many students interested in a way to not to exclude anyone or be unfair or whatever. So initially when we had the opportunity for Data Jam, we had, as teachers, we were told, okay, we'll assemble a team. And so we all had a group of students ready to go, and then when they had so many kids interested, they actually, we had one teacher that didn't actually take a team, but sort of facilitated between the Data Jam, or DataWorks, and then us. And he created teams. And in some cases it worked out, in my case it didn't work out very well. We had a lot of kids that were very uncomfortable. We had very unbelievable different levels of engagement. And then the second thing that would really, and that's not too bad if you can really facilitate that team. It could be a very good learning experience. But the problem we had on top of it were, South Fayette, we're a growing school, but we still run the same thing that some of you may experience, that all the kids that wanted to do Data Jam also were involved in so many other things that by the time deadlines hit and things like that, they were nowhere to be seen. And that became a huge issue. So even the day of the actual presentation, we had students missing for their club soccer practice, to a track meet, to so many different things. So I would definitely make sure when they sign up, understand that again, it's probably at every school, but at South Fayette, everything is always about building a resume and putting something else that can set you apart, which it's a great experience. But to just say you participated, but you weren't really deeply involved, we had a problem with that. And so we got to a week before, and I actually had some of the kids on the team, they emailed us and they wanted to quit. It was like the day before the poster was due, and I actually sat them down in the principal's office and I said, listen, you can quit, but you got to tell me to my face. And then it was a different story because it wasn't via email, and they're like, okay, Mr. Hobbs, we're in. And then it just got a little shaky. So I would strongly suggest them formulating their own teams, especially if it's your first time through. The second thing, what he said about data, our group decided to go with identity theft and just assumed there would be a ton of data out there, and they found a little bit, but not enough. And then the last thing that we ran into an issue with was we had, I think, University of Pittsburgh come out for Tableau, and they would not allow us the software license or whatever to get it on our computers at school. And we're not one-to-one, so we only have like one or a few mobile carts. So everything had to be done at home, which became a challenge as well, to try to incorporate Tableau, because they had to do it on their own or bring in their own personal computers, which they didn't do. So that was a little bit of a challenge. So it doesn't sound like Tableau is a mandatory requirement. From what I've seen, if you can get it, I think it really brings the presentation alive. So I would suggest getting, if Tableau asks those questions at school when you get back, can we get this installed? I think it's web-based as well, that you can, that would be the easiest way to access it.
Teacher is really the key success factor, the glue, the herder of the cats, the keeping everyone on the deadlines, keeping everyone engaged. It really makes a huge difference in terms of the ownership and the involvement of the teacher. That's what we have found. After all, these are 15, 16, 17-year-olds, and it's very easy to lose them. So it's really primary role for the teacher here is to keep them on track, interested, engaged, and delivering. And we're going to try this time around. We wanted to see if we can help by being more engaged and interactive, so that if you feel like there are people that are losing interest, they're not putting in the time, maybe we can do some Google Hangouts and things like that. Anything that you feel from our side that would help them keep more engaged. If you want to talk about on a Google Hangout or a webinar about data sets and the problems they're having, just keeping the conversation going with the team over here so that they feel like there's stuff happening constantly. We are willing to try to make that happen this time around. But really, in the end, it all comes down to each and